It's time for the American military to wake up, not woke up. Welcome to Saving America. This is Dr. David D. Shine for this special episode. But the trigger for today's episode is this crazy situation where a Chinese spy balloon has drifted across the entire United States from far western United States out in the Aleutians in Alaska, and then drifted over several critical military installations. What we know now that the balloon has been shot down off the east coast of the United States is that it did have steering. It could speed up, it could slow down, it could turn. Now, the cover story is that the military knew about it. They didn't want to shoot it down because it was a big thing and it might hurt people on the ground. I don't buy that story for a minute. And that they somehow prevented it from gathering data. Now, I am not an electronic technician, but I do not know how they would have prevented this thing from gathering data and sending it back to the Chi-Coms. I don't know how that works. I'd love to hear. Maybe we'll hear in the future, and I'll talk about it on a future episode of Saving America. But the point is that this should have been taken down before it got past Alaska. Alaska has vast tracts of real estate that are uninhabited, and that's where this should have been taken down. It should never have been sitting over the United States. Suppose it had hit something else and then it crashed over Chicago or New York or another highly populated area. So I don't think the Biden administration and the crackerheads running the military have got their act together. And I want to be one real clear. This balloon was shot down by a single missile from an F-22. That balloon was up at 50 to 60,000 feet above the Earth. That is an incredible feat. One rocket fired, took it down. I want to applaud the pilot for doing their job. I want to applaud the manufacturers of the F-22 for doing their job and creating a fine military machine. But I would have liked that to have been done on the other coast before we had this incident that damaged America. And as far as the Chi-Coms and gee, we're upset and you shot down a weather balloon, nobody in the world believes this was a weather balloon. First of all, it's 4, 5, 6 times larger than any legitimate weather balloon. Nobody believes that. And it's time for the Chi-Coms to be told to shut up and stop being fools. The rest of us aren't fools. And there may be some fools in Washington, but the rest of us Americans are not fools. And we know that this is a ridiculous situation. And it's time for our military to be allowed to be military. And if the current leaders won't do that, then our Congress and our leadership in America need to put new leadership in the military to make sure that America has the best military in the world. We already know we have the best soldiers and fighters in the world. You know, I grew up in a military family. My dad did 28 and a half years in the Navy, and I've been on many military bases as a dependent and then as a trainer and a professor, and even taught in the Pentagon in the year 2000, right before the incident in 2001, 9/11, yes. And so I have a strong affinity for the military. I've always supported the military, and I do believe that we need a powerful military in the United States to preserve our democracy and to help preserve democracy in our allies and the countries that need to have the support of the American military. As I indicated in my book, The Decline of America, 100 Years of Leadership Failures, we cannot let Congress and the White House continue to waste our fine American lives. This is just senseless to send people over to Afghanistan and not have a good outcome, to send people over to Vietnam with 50,000 losses. Think about that. 50,000 Americans died, and the outcome just bobbled. One thing to be clear, even the head of the North Vietnamese military admitted that the United States won the Vietnam War and then abandoned South Vietnam to the terrorists from North Vietnam. This is an inexcusable situation. What was happening? First of all, we had idiots like Henry Kissinger and Robert McNamara making bad decisions that should have been controlled by the military. We had massive mobs of unwashed idiot kids from college who should have been studying and instead were protesting a war that they never understood. And the United States basically, after sacrificing all those lives, after sacrificing hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, abandoned their allies and lost the war. This is not something that I can forgive in my lifetime. I can assure you of that. The communist aggression must be stopped, whether it is the CCP in China, whether it's North Korea, or the equally strained out Iranians and their colleagues. We've got to not give in to these bad forces and bad communities of action. This is yet another failure of the Biden administration, and I do believe, from what we continue to hear about the old Hunter laptop, is that the Biden family and Joe Biden personally is compromised by their prior business relationship with Chinese communist forces. And it's time for us to dig into that. And I think we will be learning a great deal more about that during this current Republican Congress. And I hope they will get the data that they need. Time for America to turn things around and do things right for the security of all of us. This is Dr. David D. Shine for the special episode of Saving America. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favorite platform.